How you folks doing? We're live, and we're gonna have some fun. Today is raining outside, which in Santa Rosa we love because we've had some major fires. In fact, the last fire was coming down the hill behind the practice, about 2 miles away, and that was a little scary. But we're not scared today because it's raining and it's cool. I'm going to be doing a weekly webcast with the Klim Institute here. With the limitations of travel now, I really miss live teaching, and I am doing a lot of online teaching, particularly with my website. But I really miss people. This is probably a way for me to connect with people. But we're going to be calling this our weekly clinical theater update here at the Klim Institute and in my practice. I am doing a lot of fun dentistry right now, and it's also going to be a Q&A time. There's a lot of information that comes in on my website. I should say questions with my website, my YouTube channel, and Facebook. I get questions. I'm going to review a major question today, and then we'll kind of wrap that up. So most of these programs will be probably Monday evening. I do travel a little bit now between two home locations, but my clinical theater and my teaching is here in Santa Rosa, and I really enjoy that. So let's go ahead and get started with our update here. This came in this week, which was interesting to me. These are restorations that I've done in the past on those molars. I did those occlusal composites over 30 years ago. This lady's now in her 90s. And if you look at those margins, they're still intact. Now, when we did those composites, we still had enamel on that occlusal surface. I'll tell you, wear and tear happens with age. I think what I want to point out here is look at the integrity of those margins. After 30 plus years, these were some of the earlier composites I did. I used a rubber dam, I used good etching technique, and they're still working. Adhesive dentistry really works well in an isolated environment. Either an isolate or rubber dam is critical. Now, the canine there's an interesting story behind this one because that was a primary tooth that I told her to extract probably 35 years ago. And she said, no, just let's save it. It's in crossbite. We did a direct composite. 20-some years later, she had decay on the roots, so we updated that 3 years ago with an Empress Multi. That's an A35 polished, cemented in, and I just did a Class 5 composite on the lateral there, number 10. So I took this picture, and look at the x-ray. The margins are impeccable. That primary tooth is still holding up after 90 years. I'll tell you, you got to listen to your patients because they will sometime fool you and with their expectations, and that was one of those. Here's another case I'm working on this week. It's my second veneer case that I've done since I've been back, and in this case, you can see the gum line is not necessarily level. The teeth were quite crowded, and we removed the Empress veneers that we did 20-some years ago with our Urban YAG laser, and those things just flew off. If the veneer is thin, they can come off. Hi, Cindy, good to see you. If those veneers are thin, with the Urban YAG laser, they will come off in about a minute or less. In fact, I just upgraded my wife's anterior veneers that I did a while back, and they were Empress, and I got all the veneers off from 6 to 11 in about probably 5 to 6 minutes. In fact, I'll be posting a video on how to take veneers off with the Urban YAG laser in the future. But this is a case I'm working on today, and this is on Friday, so I'm just kind of getting that ready to go for next week and seeding that. Here's another question I get quite a bit, and that is, how do you match anterior veneers and crowns? And I'll tell you, one of my main blending factors in my clinical theater is having different colors of cement, knowing what the transparency or translucency, I should say, or opacity of the ceramic. You can really change the color of and brilliance of your ceramic. This is a case that I did for hands-on training at the AACD several years ago, where we would place in different colors of trying paste, and you can see the same restoration on the same color of the die. Look at all those different effects that you can do. This is Variant Aesthetic by Aviclar. I really like that product. There's other good products on the market, but definitely you need to have trying paste to get that final blend in your aesthetic clinical theater. The other thing that I found out this week that was really interesting is that I'm doing a lot of Katana. In fact, I would say half of the restorations I do posteriorly now are Katana. And the reason why I like it so much is that it's very predictable. And this is on the Primemill, and you can pre-calibrate and touch that system. And they're still working on the efficiency of this Primemill, but I'll tell you, it is a zirconia beast, and I have it just as my zirconia miller. And what's nice is you can pre-touch the blocks, so when you're ready to mill, if you can use the fast mill, you'll have that restoration milled out in 4 to 5 minutes, and then put that into the speed fire. So Katana is a very efficient turnaround. When I'm using Katana, I'll choose 1 or 2 shades darker. Most of them are polished when I place them in. And I have a lot of elderly clients, and with those elderly clients, I have to address a lot of subgingival decay. And so whenever I'm having to deal with that and taking an old restoration off or dealing with a lot of subgingival decay, I definitely like Katana. It's a very efficient turnaround. Zirconia, the margins are impeccable with their Primemill and Primescan. I'll tell you, it's the easiest restoration I've ever done in CAD/CAM dentistry in over 15 years. I've done dentistry over 30 some years, but I'm just getting excited about this. So the Primemill is really a good system. I still use my MCXL for my ceramics. So I have actually 3 milling units. And so I think if you haven't gotten the Primemill yet, you probably will eventually update to that, because it is going to be the milling unit of the future. And particularly with the precision and the speed of it, it will eventually be updated to milling alloys, which is kind of interesting to know. And the ceramic mills are great. We don't have all the options to mill the ceramics that it will eventually have, and there will be more burr support with that coming soon. But it definitely is a very good system. But I would recommend right now, if you upgrade to it, definitely keep your MCXL. Just make it your another milling unit. And good beverage on a cold day, but definitely keep that up. Also, this next Sunday evening, and that would be November 15, Todd and I are going to be interviewing a colleague of ours, and we call it the Dental Show Live. We started this during the shutdown, and we've had thousands of views on it. Now, Todd's a good friend of mine at Digital Enamel. He also has a new online teaching that's called Digital Enamel TV. I'd suggest you check that out. He's a very gifted person, and he's also a good friend, and I want to support him in that. And so you have a lot of online options. You have the Klim Institute online.tv, or actually it's called cadstar.tv, and then you have also digitalenamel.tv. And we are independent educators that are able to speak our mind the way we see it. And I celebrate all the great products that we have, and it's just a good time to be in dentistry. Okay, enough on that. I want to address the question that came in to me this last week on my YouTube channel. And it was about, how do I manage special cases like veneers or bridges posteriorly? Do I do them all in one appointment? And how do I pick and choose that relative to costs of return and time? And particularly this comment that came out about, how do you do that with the confines of dental insurance? And I think that's a really good question. So here's my journey of life. I've practiced for almost 4 decades now. I'm in the latter part of my 4th decade, and every decade's been a little different. When I first started, I was young. I had primary insurance-driven practice, and I made it work. Now, we know that there are insurance fees that can limit you. For instance, if you're doing full mouth rehabs on insurance fees, unless you really want to give a lot of things away, you won't be reimbursed adequately, and that's a little difficult. Now, through the years, I've become fee for service, and that happened about 20 years ago. In fact, I'll be happy to share that journey with you. You have to be at the top of your game to be fee for service because people are paying you a fee outside of their insurance. Even though we process a lot of insurance, you definitely have to be at the top of your game. So how do I manage my cases? Now, my posterior dentistry, I do pretty much in one appointment. Most of the time, now that I have zirconia, Katana is my go-to there. If I'm not using zirconia, Emax is my go-to posteriorly. How do I manage bridges and larger cases? Well, I work them in between patients. So I'll place on transitionals. If I'm doing a bridge, I'll mill out like a Larger CAD, fit the bridge in. It's a good prototype. It's a good trial run. If I do implant restorations, I almost never do those in one appointment. What we'll do is we'll scan those like a month before we load the implant, and that usually takes a half an hour, and then we design it in between patients and finish it between patients, and then when the patient comes in, we screw it in and place it. And that's probably the most proficient restoration I do with CEREC. I'm going to call it the Primemill Superhighway. You know, the Primemill is incredible for me, and it's been the best scanning system I've ever used, and it's just amazing on how accurate it is, particularly with appliances. I do full arch scans in less than 3 minutes, more around 2 minutes now. I'll take the bite where I want it, and I'll do another one on appliances. I'm getting all excited here. So the way I manage larger cases is that, or special cases, is that I'll scan, I'll place in transitional teeth, that's what I call provisionals, and then it gives me time to work them between patients. Like today is a Friday, I'm actually finishing up a veneer case today. I don't do those in one appointment, mainly because I get tired, right? And then the patient gets tired, and then it just doesn't work out as well. So you do have to pay attention to your return on your investment, but the bigger picture here is to build your skill set. There's a lot of cases I've done through the years where maybe I didn't make a return on it, but I built a skill set, and it was a focus of me becoming better at what I do. And one thing I love about the Dentsply Sirona system, which is CEREC, and I've been with this system for over, I think 15 years now. Wow, that's a long time. Started with the RedCam, is that you build your skill set over time, and it's just little things you do here and here and here and here and here, and pretty soon you have this huge platform of expertise that you can give back to your patients. So I know there's limitations of what we can do because of reimbursement, and we have to pay attention to the business model of our practice, particularly now. But on the other side of that, it's just more than that. It's about building your skill set to be the best you can be. And so it does require homework. I had to do homework to get through dental school. But if you can structure and place that homework into your schedule, for instance, when I'm doing a larger veneer case, very rarely do I do a large veneer case in the same day. But what I will do is turn it around quickly, and then my team will schedule maybe 2 or 3 hours for finishing. So those restorations will be designed, milled, and then I have like a 3-hour lab time in my schedule because it's very productive for me. And that is really when I'm in my clinical theater of blessings, right? Is when I'm finishing ceramics, and I have several furnaces here, so I can get them done in 2 to 3 hours, and that's when I have a lot of fun. When I'm doing zirconia bridges, it's definitely more proficient for me when I'm doing those in 2 appointments. So that's a good question that we had, is how do we make this all work in our clinical theater? My challenge to anyone out there is tackle your environment not by being in a defeatist mode, but seeing it as an opportunity to be the best you can be, and knowing the fact that as you build skill work, sometimes you don't always make money off a procedure, but just consider that tuition. In fact, that's what my Patterson rep told me once, is that, there was this large case I was doing, and I had to revisit the veneer twice because it wasn't the right shade. This was about 20 years ago. And it was, fortunately the patient had faith in what I was doing, but that was a lot of work. And I don't have to do that much anymore. In fact, on my website, the Klim Institute online site, I talk a lot about how to set a case up for success, emotional closure, making sure you're getting things down before you ever start the case, so you're going to have a successful outcome. So Well, I've enjoyed this time with you today. If you have any questions, make sure you post them below. I know a lot of you folks will be looking at this in a rerun aspect. Next week, I think I'll be on Monday night. And Q&A, I will answer questions here and do this on a weekly basis. And it's been a lot of fun. It's a lot easier now. I have a full setup here, media setup. And this is in my office, in my teaching center. And I enjoy doing this. So I wish you folks have the best day and weekend. Make sure you go to the Dentsply Sirrah World convention. It's on today. And sign in. I think you'll be able to probably watch some of those videos later on. And then also, if you want to know more, one more thing I need to go to on my... these are the latest videos that I've posted here at the Klim Institute, cadstar.tv. These are the latest, the new content section is here, particularly the Primescan video of where we scan in a full denture to use as a record base, and a border molded impression. We're updating the denture that I did a number of years ago, and the Primescan can mill. Well, I didn't say that right. The Primescan can scan 360 of that, and then we printed that out. Also, scanning techniques for veneers, anterior crown prep work. This is interesting. This is my workflow for how I prep anterior cases and scan that into the computer. Here's the latest update on how I use materials in my clinical theater and when and how I use them. So I place about 2 videos out a week on this. This is really my first love of what I do. And if you're not a member here, you can join and become a member. There's a yearly fee for that. And there's also CE online. That's very important now. A lot of my CE I acquired online since I couldn't go to live courses. So we're adding to that CE portfolio every month. So you folks stay safe out there, okay? And thanks for joining, and I'll talk to you next week. Bye now.